He thought his life was falling apart, his startup destroyed, his wife broken, and his future gone. But when a neighbor knocked at 3 a.m. with 5 chilling words, everything changed. What he discovered next would unravel betrayal, unlock a buried truth, and lead him to a billionaire legacy no one saw coming. Stay with us. This is not just a story. It is a revelation. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon, so you never miss our life-changing content. If you find value in these stories, please like and share the channel. It helps us reach more hearts. This is more than entertainment. Each story carries a deep moral lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and transform. I remember the knock. Sharp. Urgent. Like it was trying to wake my soul. It was 3 a.m. My eyes burned from the glow of the laptop screen. Financial spreadsheets. Debt trackers. Failed pitches. They all blurred together by then. I had not slept in days. Another knock. This time louder. Our neighbor, Mr. Carson, retired Army vet, stood in the doorway, face pale. "You need to check on your wife," he said, his voice trembling. I felt my chest tighten. The kind of fear that claws its way into your lungs and does not let go. I rushed to the bedroom. There she was. Emma. Lying on the floor. Curled like a child. Tears soaked into her sleeves. Our wedding photo clutched in her hand. I knelt beside her, my own heart shattering. I had been too consumed by my failures to notice her pain. Emma had always been the light. The one who stood in the rain holding an umbrella for both of us. Even when her own clothes were soaked through. But in chasing success, I had let her drown in silence. We did not speak that night. We just held each other. Tightly. Like the world might fall apart if we let go. 2 years before that night, I was a rising star. Forbes had called me the next tech disruptor. Investors lined up. And I believed I was invincible. Then the crash came. First, the product failed. Then lawsuits. Then betrayal, from my closest partner. And through it all, Emma stayed. When we had to sell our home, she said, "It is just walls." When I could not afford her birthday dinner, she smiled. "I already have the best gift. You." But I stopped believing I deserved her. So I buried myself in shame. In silence. In numbers. Until that night. Until Mr. Carson knocked. In the weeks that followed, something changed. I asked for help. From her. From others. From myself. Emma started waking up early with me. She made coffee. Sat beside me as I rebuilt my pitch deck. She scribbled little notes. "You are more than your failure. Your past does not define your worth." I would find them in my wallet. Inside books. Even on the bathroom mirror. One morning, I caught her watching me as I rehearsed. Tears in her eyes. Pride on her face. She whispered, "No matter how far you fall, I will be your ground." 3 months later, I walked into a boardroom. No suit. No fancy watch. Just a burning belief, and the woman who gave it back to me. The pitch was raw. Honest. No bluff. I told them how I failed. Then how I learned. I told them I wanted to build something real. Not just scalable. But human. I left thinking I had lost again. Until the email came that night. Funding approved. I broke down in Emma's arms. But success did not return all at once. We lived on savings. Shared one car. Celebrated small wins with dollar store wine and laughter. Emma started painting again. She turned our tiny apartment into a canvas of hope. Every stroke, every color. A reminder of what love looked like. When everything else disappeared. Then came the letter. The partner who once betrayed me had filed a claim. Trying to seize part of the company I had rebuilt. Emma read the letter first. She looked up at me. Her eyes were calm. Steady. She said, "We will not break. Not now. Not after everything." But my hands shook. My heart collapsed into old fears. Was I going to lose it all again? Would I drag her down with me? Then she did something I never expected. She pulled out an old notebook. flipped to a page she had marked with a ribbon. It was dated the night Mr. Carson had knocked. Her handwriting read, "He thinks he is losing everything, but he is about to find himself."
And just then, the phone rang. My lawyer. Voice firm.
"You are not going to believe what we found,"
he said.
"You are not going to believe what we found."
I gripped the phone tighter.
Emma watched me, her eyes searching my face for answers.
But I could not speak.
"Your former partner forged the original agreement," the lawyer continued.
"We found digital traces, timestamps, metadata. It is clear.
You were set up." I sank into the chair.
Not from shock,
but from the sudden release of weight I had been carrying for years. Emma knelt beside me. She did not need to hear the words. She knew, because her hand tightened around mine, and tears welled in her eyes, soft, quiet ones, the kind that fall when your soul exhales.
"You are free," my lawyer said.
"I will handle the rest. You focus on building."
That night we danced.
No music,
no guests, just us,
swaying in the middle of our tiny living room, surrounded by Emma's half-finished paintings, and the smell of warm cinnamon tea. She rested her head on my chest, whispered, "I told you, your story was not over."
I held her closer. She was right.
I had been chasing a version of success that looked good in headlines,
but felt hollow inside. Now, with her, with honesty,
with every scar and lesson carved into my soul,
I felt full, whole, alive.
The next morning, I returned to the office. A single room, still cluttered with sketches and models. But something inside it had shifted.
Clarity, conviction, compassion.
I wrote a letter to my new team, not about profits or projections, but about purpose.
I told them,
"We are not just building a company. We are building a promise. That failure does not end you. That loyalty matters. That success should never cost you your soul." I sent the email, then sat back and stared at Emma's note taped to my monitor. "Your past does not define your worth." She had written it on a napkin, the day I almost gave up.
I kept it ever since. Weeks passed. Then months.
The startup grew. Our first launch sold out within hours. Investors came knocking again.
But this time,
I made the rules.
I set our culture.
I protected our values. I shared our profits with those who stood by me, when I had nothing to offer but broken dreams. And at every milestone, Emma stood beside me.
Not behind. Beside. As an equal.
As my anchor. As the reason I remembered who I was. Then one rainy afternoon, as we walked home beneath a shared umbrella, she stopped suddenly, pulled me into a small bookstore, said she had something to show me. Inside, she handed me a wrapped package. Said nothing, just smiled. I opened it slowly. Inside was a leather-bound journal. The first page read, "To the man who had to lose everything, to find what truly matters." It was filled with letters. Emma had been writing to me
for 3 years.
Through every setback. Every night I locked myself away. Every time I doubted myself. She had written her heart out.
In silence. In faith. In love.
Tears blurred my vision as I turned the pages. One letter ended with, "Even when you forget your light, I will hold the candle." I looked at her, and she looked at me. That same look from the night she lay crying on the floor, but now with fire behind it. Grace. And strength. I realized then, she had not saved me. She had reminded me how to save myself. The journal now sits on my desk. I read a page every morning. It reminds me of the darkness, and how love lit the way out. But just when I thought peace had finally settled in, another letter arrived. This one, unsigned. Mailed to my office. No return address. Inside, a single line. "You need to know what really happened the night your partner betrayed you." The envelope was unmarked. The handwriting, elegant, deliberate.
Not Emma's.
Not anyone I recognized. My heart raced as I reread the line. You need to know what really happened the night your partner betrayed you.
I sat back. The past.
The pain I had buried beneath fresh beginnings.
Stirred again.
Emma walked into the room, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She saw the letter in my hands.
The expression on my face. She did not ask.
She simply sat beside me.
Waited.
Like she always did.
Calm, steady, present.
I handed her the note. Watched her eyes scan the words.
She looked up.
I think you need to follow this, she said. Her voice was soft but sure. She had always believed in confronting the truth.
Even if it hurt. Especially then.
That evening, I opened an old folder on my laptop. Archived emails. Meeting records. The collapse of my first company, compressed into digital files. I clicked through them one by one.
The timestamps. The contracts.
The abrupt withdrawal of funding.
Then I saw it.
An email forwarded to my old co-founder Ben.
Subject line.
Internal strategy, do not share. It was sent by someone from the investor firm. Someone I had trusted. But the message was not meant for Ben.
It was about me.
About how they planned to isolate me.
Discredit me. A clean break, they called it.
Protecting the board from emotional leadership.
I sat frozen.
It was never just betrayal.
It was a setup.
They did not just let me fall.
They pushed me.
Emma stood behind me now, her hand resting on my shoulder. I leaned into her touch. How did we miss this?
I whispered. She leaned down.
We were surviving. The next day, I called my lawyer.
Told him about the letter.
Forwarded the email trail.
He whistled through his teeth.
This changes everything, he said.
If we can prove intent, there is a case. A big one. But I hesitated.
Was it worth reopening this wound?
We had rebuilt. Found peace.
What good would justice bring?
If it cost us our calm? I turned to Emma.
She watched me for a long moment. Then said, You are not doing this for revenge. You are doing it for truth. For the man who blamed himself all these years. And just like that,
I knew.
I had to see it through. We began gathering evidence.
Emails. Contracts. Witnesses. Some people came forward.
Others stayed silent. One woman, a junior associate at the time, agreed to meet in person.
Her name was Layla.
She had been in the room the day the final decision was made to cut me out. We met in a quiet cafe near the waterfront. She was nervous.
Kept glancing around. I thanked her for coming. She said,
I should have spoken up years ago. But I was scared.
We all were.
She slid a flash drive across the table. I recorded a conversation, not on purpose.
My phone was on.
I was scared to delete it.
Now.
I think it belongs to you. That night, Emma and I sat in silence. The laptop opened between us. The audio file loaded.
I hovered over the play button.
The past was waiting. Not just to haunt us, but maybe finally to free us.
I clicked play.
And a voice I had once trusted said, He will break eventually. He always leads with his heart. That is his weakness.
Emma reached for my hand. But I could not move. The next voice was worse. Because it was Ben's. Cold. Certain.
Then we will make sure it breaks clean. I felt the blood drain from my face. Emma's hand tightened around mine. She could feel it too. The storm unraveling inside me. I had imagined the betrayal 100 times. But hearing him, Ben, speak about me like that, like I was nothing more than a piece to be discarded, it hit deeper than I expected. The recording continued. Another voice chimed in. A senior partner, calm and calculating. Make it look like he stepped down. We will spin it as burnout. He gets to walk away with pride. We keep the equity.
They laughed. A soft, cruel laugh. Emma closed the laptop. The sound stopped, but the echo remained.
I sat there, staring at nothing. Not angry.
Not sad. Just empty.
Everything I had built, everything I had lost, everything I had blamed myself for, was never my fault. They had scripted my downfall, like a business strategy. The next morning, I stood by the window, watching the city come to life. Emma walked up beside me, said nothing at first, just handed me a cup of coffee. She whispered, "You did not deserve that. But you survived it. And you are still standing." I nodded slowly. She was right. They took everything. But they did not take me. And they could never take her. That afternoon, I forwarded the recording to my lawyer. He called within minutes. "This is explosive," he said. "Clear proof of collusion and reputational damage. We have a solid case. You could file for damages. Possibly equity reclamation." I asked the only question that mattered. Would it be public?
There was a pause.
"If you want it to be." Emma and I sat with the decision for days. It was not about revenge. It was about reclaiming truth. About telling the world that what they did was wrong. That character, kindness, and vulnerability should never be punished in business. But I also knew going public would come with a storm. I would be on every headline again. The trauma revisited. The narrative dissected. Emma looked at me one night and said, "Whatever you choose. We stand in the light now. No one gets to dim that." I scheduled a meeting with my board. They listened in silence as I played the recording. Their faces turned from surprise
to discomfort, to quiet fury.
One of the directors, a woman I had once mentored, spoke first. "We will support you," she said. "You deserve the truth to be known."
Another chimed in. Then another.
And then they all stood. For the first time in years, I felt what it meant to be seen. I issued the statement the next morning.
No blame. No venom. Just truth.
I told the world what happened. What I had learned. What we, as leaders, should never forget. That success built on betrayal is failure in disguise. And that the ones who lead with heart, they are not weak. They are rare. They are needed. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in. Entrepreneurs, artists, teachers, even students, thanking me for speaking what they had lived in silence. And in the middle of it all, a message from someone I had not heard from in years.
"Ben, we need to talk. In person."
I stared at the screen, felt a strange calm settle over me. Emma walked in, carrying a canvas she had just finished. She looked at me, then at the message. I met her eyes. "What do I say?" I asked. She tilted her head, then said softly, "Say whatever brings you peace. But remember, you owe him nothing." I stared at Ben's message for a long time, not because I did not know what to say, but because part of me still remembered the boy he once was. We had shared dorm rooms, shared ramen in the early days, shared dreams when we had nothing but notebooks and stubborn hope. And then he traded it all for a seat at someone else's table. I closed the laptop, not in anger, in clarity, because some people deserve closure, and others only deserve distance. Emma was right. I owed him nothing. But life has a strange way of circling back. 3 days later, I saw him. Not in an office. Not in court. But on the street. It was raining. I was stepping out of a cafe with Emma when I saw the familiar shape across the road. Hunched. Thin. Alone. Ben. He was standing beneath a broken umbrella, staring at the building across from him. A startup incubator. The kind we had once dreamed of running. Emma noticed him too. She looked at me, silent, letting me choose. I crossed the street. Ben saw me. And for a moment, time froze. The wind between us. The past between us. Everything we never said. His eyes were hollow. aging not from years,
but from regrets. "Hey," he said. His voice cracked.
Smaller than I remembered.
"Hey," I replied.
We stood there in the rain, like two ghosts revisiting a grave.
He looked down.
Then said, "I am sorry."
Just that. Nothing more. No excuses.
No rehearsed apology.
And somehow, that was enough.
Because I had already done the hardest thing. I had healed without hearing those words.
Still,
there was something in his eyes.
A tremble. A plea.
"I lost everything," he whispered.
"They dropped me too. Used me.
Left me with nothing."
I nodded.
Quietly. "They did the same to me," I said. "But I had someone who stayed."
He looked up.
And for the first time, I saw the weight of his choices. The price of ambition. Without love. Without truth. Without someone to hold the candle. "I do not expect anything," he said. "I just wanted to tell you. I was wrong." I believed him. But I did not offer him comfort. Because he needed something else more.
Accountability.
I walked back across the street. Emma waited, holding an umbrella over both of us. She did not ask what he said. She did not need to.
Her hand slipped into mine. Warm. Sure. Safe. We walked on,
leaving behind the rain. And everything it washed away.
Months passed.
The case settled quietly.
In my favor.
They offered compensation. A public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. But I asked for something else too.
A fund. For young entrepreneurs. Who were pushed out, cast aside.
Silenced by power. We called it the Candlelight Fund. In honor of Emma's note. And every year, we choose 10 founders.
10 hearts.
10 lights that refused to go out. One evening, I was speaking at a university. A student raised her hand and asked, "What would you tell your younger self? Back when you lost everything?"
I smiled. Paused. Then said,
"Find someone who sees you when the world stops.
Hold on to them.
Let them remind you of who you are.
Because love, real love,
will never measure you by your success." I looked out into the crowd.
Emma was there. Front row. Smiling. Always.
But just as I stepped off stage, an aide rushed toward me. "Sir," he said, handing me a sealed envelope. "This was left for you."
No name. I opened it. Inside, a photo of my father,
standing beside a man I had never seen before. On the back,
a single sentence.
"Ask your mother about the man who funded your first dream. Continue from where you stop, do not end the story."
My breath caught.
I stared at the photo, fingers trembling, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum.
It was him.
My father, younger than I had ever seen him. Smiling in a way I barely remembered. Genuine, open, proud. But it was the other man that drew my eyes.
Sharp suit. Stern eyes.
An aura of quiet command. Something about him felt familiar.
Not his face, but his presence.
The kind of man who left fingerprints on futures, without ever stepping into the spotlight. I turned the photo over again. Read the words once more. Ask your mother about the man who funded your first dream.
I swallowed hard.
There were no initials.
No signature.
Just that sentence. And a truth that had somehow lived in silence all these years. I flew home the next morning. Emma insisted on coming with me. She always did when things got heavy. Not to carry the weight for me, but to remind me I did not have to carry it alone. The small family house still smelled like lavender and lemon polish. My mother met me at the door. Surprised but smiling.
Until she saw my face.
I handed her the photo. She looked at it. And everything inside her shifted. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands trembled just slightly. Like the wind of a long-buried memory had returned. I waited. She sat down, clutching the photo to her chest. "I hoped you would never see this," she whispered. The silence that followed was thick. Emma sat beside me, her hand on my knee. My mother looked up. Tears welled in her eyes. The man beside your father. His name was Victor Kane. My stomach flipped. I knew that name. Everyone in tech did. He was a shadow billionaire. One of the original minds behind early silicon breakthroughs. Then he disappeared from the public eye decades ago. What was he to Dad? I asked. She hesitated, then spoke slowly. They were best friends once. More than that, partners. He was the reason your father ever believed he could start something. I blinked. All my life, I had believed my father had bootstrapped his dream. Built it brick by brick on his own. My mother's voice cracked. When your father fell ill, he did not want you to know we were broke. Victor helped. Quietly. Anonymously. He gave you your first grant. The one you used to enter that tech contest when you were 19. My mind reeled. That was from a university scholarship, I said slowly. She nodded. That is what we told you. I stood pacing now. Every truth I had built my story on was shifting. Victor Kane had been part of my origin, the seed of my journey, the wind beneath my first leap. But why? Why now? Why this photo? My mother looked at me. He told your father something before he disappeared. Said one day, when the time was right, he would return the favor. Not for glory, but for legacy. I stared at her. Do you think he sent the anonymous letter? The one that helped uncover Ben? She shook her head. I do not know. But if anyone had the power to expose the truth quietly, it would be him. Emma looked at me, eyes wide, full of the same question pulsing through my chest. If Victor Kane was still alive, where was he now? And what else did he know? That night, I could not sleep. I sat by the window, watching the moonlight stretch across the floor. Emma came to sit beside me, wrapped in a shawl. She rested her head on my shoulder. Softly, she said, "Sometimes the people who save us never ask to be known." I nodded. But something inside me stirred. This was not just gratitude. It was connection. Purpose. Victor Kane had shaped my path from the shadows. Now, I needed to find him. Not just to say thank you, but because deep down, I knew he held a key to something bigger. To something I was still meant to build. Something beyond money. Beyond revenge. Beyond even redemption. Legacy. And I had a feeling. He had been waiting for me to be ready. I did find Victor Kane. Not in a boardroom. Not on a stage. But in a quiet coastal town, tucked away in a modest home by the sea. He was older than the photo, of course. Slower in his step, softer in his voice. But his eyes, they still carried that sharp, world-sculpting brilliance. He welcomed me in, as if he had always known I would come. We sat on his porch as the waves whispered beneath a peach-colored sky. I asked him why he helped my father. Why he helped me. Why he stayed hidden. He looked at me and said, "Because true legacy is not built by being seen. It is built by making sure others can rise." Then he handed me a letter. One he had written years ago, but never sent. It read, "Someday you will fall. But if your heart remains intact, you will rise higher than any empire. And when you do, remember to lift others with you." I left with tears in my eyes, and a new purpose in my chest. Today, our company thrives. But more than that, our impact thrives. We fund dreams. We guide broken souls back to light. We build businesses that lead with ethics, not ego. We teach young leaders that failure is not shame. It is fertilizer for something real. And every office we open, every check we sign, every young founder we mentor, carries the legacy of those who held us up when we were down. Emma and I now speak together at schools, at prisons, at shelters, anywhere hope needs a voice. We tell our story, not as a tale of business, but as a story of becoming, of how pain refines purpose, of how love rescues identity, of how truth, no matter how long it hides, always finds its way home.
Moral lesson.
Sometimes, life knocks at 3 a.m., shattering the silence, exposing what we ignored, and forcing us to confront the parts of ourselves we buried.
But what defines us is not the fall. It is how we rise.
It is who reaches for our hand in the darkness, and whether we have the courage to hold on.
So be the one who stays. Be the one who believes.
Be the one who leads with love, even when the world tells you it is a weakness.
Because in the end, the heart you protect
may just be the one that saves you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this heartfelt story. If it resonated with you, please consider sharing it, leaving a comment below, and reminding someone in your life. You are never alone.